Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jonathan here for Business Spotlight, and I have my good friend Larry Carnes of Reflections, and he's in the pools and ponds industry. And before we get into that, when I say pools and ponds, it's high end pools and ponds, like some of the most incredible designs that you've ever seen. So, Larry, how'd you get into that?
Um, it started off just as my wife and I wanting something in our backyard that wasn't a normal pool. We didn't want to look at a concrete box that was covered with a tarp half the year because I'm up in the Chicagoland area. And we asked around, looked around. I was in landscaping at the time. Nobody was building it, and just started doing it.
Nice. So you
Yeah.
built yours. Other people like,
Yeah, I ultimately found somebody that said they could do it,
uh,
and then they couldn't. They didn't really know what they were doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I went to work for that guy, and then a year later, he had to let me go for his business reasons. And then I went back to work for the landscaper. And at one point, my wife said, "I'm tired of hearing the stories. Quit your job." And she bought me a pickup truck and said, "Make enough money to pay for the truck and take care of the house."
there you go.
Yeah,
How important do you think that was having the support at home?
that was massive. She she carried everything for years. It was just within the last few years that I was really actually able to financially contribute because I just kept putting the money back in.
Yep.
And then it got to the point where we had financial issues with our house because I started my business at the end of the last recession.
Yeah.
So we had to refinance our house because we got screwed. We were in the process of refinancing at one point, and they're like, "Hey, we're going out of business." So the financing didn't go through, and then we were up a creek. And then you know, somebody set us up. They screwed us, and I realized that I had to pay that loan off in a couple of years, or we were going to lose our house.
Yeah.
So I just mentally said, I got to do X within 2 years, and I did it and paid off that loan, the second mortgage on our house.
There you go.
So
It's amazing what can motivate you, and it's amazing what you can do when your back's against the wall.
yeah, when you get comfortable, then people tell, oh, you got comfortable. Yeah, I did get comfortable. So now we're going on to another level.
That's it, man. So let's talk about those first couple of years in business because everyone
Mm-hmm.
wants to seem like it's a joyride or a walk in the park. What are some of the critical mistakes that you remember, right? That going back, you'd be like, I can't believe I did that.
Oh God, I knew I needed an attorney. I knew I needed an accountant, but I still didn't know enough, and I didn't know how money worked. I've learned a lot about that recently. Because the first year in business, the business did 80 grand, I think, maybe closer to 100. But it's not like I was to work with.
Yeah.
The second year we had a little bit more, and a little bit more after that. But one of the huge things was knowing the contracts. Um, it took me a long time to learn the financial aspect of things, but then I got taken advantage of early on by people who knew how contracts and legal stuff worked,
Yeah.
and I got screwed out of money because they're like, "Take me to court." Well, they knew how much it would take to pay an attorney and go to court, and it usually worked out to the amount of money they owed me.
Yeah.
So, it happened. That was one of the main things, and then I was renting a lot of equipment because I don't have a shop or a yard. Rented a lot of stuff. And then I was in a seminar, and we had to bring a P&L statement, and the guy running the seminar goes, "You spent that much money in rentals?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, yeah, but I'm not storing it. I don't take care of it. I have to carry insurance, but it's not a big deal." And he looked right at me and he goes, "Think about how much money or how much equipment you could buy in 10 years with $400,000." I
Yep.
was spending $40,000 a year in rentals for equipment, and it was like ding.
Yeah.
And then, the business wasn't consistent, so I was timid of doing it. And then, so yeah, I bought my first. I had already had a little machine, the ditch witches.
Yep.
Then I bought a skid steer. I bought an excavator because that's what I was renting consistently. And then bought another skid steer. Now I have a bigger excavator. We just purchased that at the end of last year. Thank you very much. And the other ditch witch, I bought that.
Yep.
Bought a lot of stuff. Once I kind of understood how numbers work, even though I hate spreadsheets, but the data helps you make the decisions, and I learned that a lot over the last year.
Of course. Well, think about it. You're writing off the interest unless you did a lease to own or a lease with a dollar buyout, because then you
Yep.
can write down the full thing. You have an asset on your balance sheet, so your company is infinitely more valuable. And you and I both know the rental rate versus the monthly payment. The rental rate's always going to be way higher. So
Yep.
you're saving money and you're increasing your profit.
Yeah.
Right. But you set yourself up to be in a position where you can do that. Most people in your trade do not do that.
No, I know a lot of people in my trades that I remember God, what was it? I was buying vehicles and I was buying them used and I would pay cash for them.
Yep.
Because I was buying them secondhand. The companies were buying them on auction. They were flipping them to me. And I thought I was getting a deal. And then I learned that, well, that amount you paid up front, now I lowered my cash flow. And, that would have been, 10 months of 12 months of payments.
Yeah.
So if I can afford that, I can afford it every year and just have nice new stuff. But a wise man, when I was buying equipment and I said I have the cash, said, Larry, if you pay for equipment in cash, I'm going to choke you. You said something like that.
Probably. That sounds like something I would say to people I like and care about.
Yeah.
I mean, cash flow is everything to a business. If you look at why businesses fail, they fail because of cash flow issues.
Yeah.
And anytime you can improve your cash flow and improve your margins, that's what, that should be the first and second rules. And the third rule is don't forget rule number 1 and rule number 2. Right?
Yeah.
So besides producing an amazing product, right? What else do you think separates you from everybody else? Like you have an ideal market, right? Because you're not going out to the average person to build this.
No.
So you have your ideal client picked out. What else separates you?
I just think it's our ability to pull off the cool things we design and build. I mean, we've got our systems down. We're working on documenting all that stuff now so we can teach more guys as we're growing. But it's just, the relationships we've built with people and doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
There's times where I've screwed up on estimates, proposals, and I just did it. I told them I was going to do it. I learned my lesson, and then just don't repeat it. You move forward from that. I think that's one of the other things. It's just our ability to serve our clients the way they want to be served.
Yep.
Anybody can dig a hole. Anybody can move a rock. There is the artistry behind it, but it's also the team we've been building to help and serve everybody else.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you put all that stuff together, you have the right team, you know your market, you have a better product. It makes things a lot easier to run and to operate and ultimately keep it simple, right? So business doesn't have to be hard. And I think in ways business is both harder today because of the amount of competition, but it's also easier because those things that you said, hey, well, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to. Well, how many people actually do that today? Right? So just being a man of integrity and a company of integrity goes a lot further than what people think, and it actually is probably the best strategy you can have because it decreases any type of you get word of mouth referrals as opposed to having to market all
Right.
the time.
Yeah, we do a fair amount of marketing, but man, the word of mouth is just incredible. And, we get a lot of contractors or designers, architects that keep coming back to us because we've built those relationships. Because if you don't have the relationship built and you're not solving their problems, then it becomes price. But if you're solving their issues, yeah, you have to be within a budget range, but I'm usually more expensive than everybody else. All our clients tell us that at the end. We were the most expensive person we talked to, but yet we were there.
Yep.
So it's not always about price. A lot of people think it is. It's not.
I believe it. I know it. I absolutely know it. Now, where do you see this going? Like, what are the goals for the company next year, 2, 3 years?
Our goal this year is to do between 2 to 3 million. That sounds like a big spread, but we were around 2 million last year, and work just seems to keep flowing in. Building our team, and the goal this year is to really get everything solidified. Last year, I wanted to get systems and processes in place. With some labor issues, that was a little more difficult, but we're working heavily on that right now. I'm actually using AI stuff. Got to learn how to manipulate it, but to make all our training videos for the crews. So that's what I've been working on the last 2 days.
And where are you hosting this?
So right now we keep it in our company Dropbox, but then there's a site or a program called Trainial that our guys will have access to.
Yeah.
And then they can go there and pull off of that.
Perfect. Actually, that's the exact system I use.
Is it? Okay.
Works very well.
Good.
There you go. And I want to go back to just doing a good job and doing what you say. So you're getting these referrals from word of mouth, and you spend money on marketing.
Yep.
Have you ever looked at the closing ratios between the word of mouth and repeat business versus the marketing?
I kind of have a feeling for that in my head, but that goes back to tracking everything. I have over the years just totally sucked at doing that. And that's where it's hard. And it came down to the financial stuff I did with you and some other people, knowing how to read the data and go, okay, I can make this decision because this is what it says. So now I need to do that. We're implementing a true CRM so we can track stuff, track people, track leads, where it came from, and what happened with it. Because, you talk to people and what about your KPIs? I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't have any of that. I just know if I go talk to this person and put enough contacts and touches with people I know, and then meet more people, we get enough calls and we keep growing. But to decide whether I'm hiring that person to sell stuff or design or manage, I've got to be able to tell them you need to execute this, and you'll get that, and that's the result, and then we can build further from there. So yeah, that's a huge thing this year is the tracking.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I would say word of mouth is probably going to close faster, easier, and a much higher percentage.
It's so much easier, especially when it's, because they're already trusting somebody else, and nobody's going to refer you if you did a crap job for them. So it's usually, and you walk right in, you do something, and you're done. It's usually not a big deal.
Yep.
Even with the big landscapers and architects.
Got it.
And you would say that's where the majority of your client base is.
It is right now. I mean, we do get some nice big work. I mean, our jobs aren't usually small. From web searches and results,
Uh-huh.
but you can drive yourself nuts with that because you see everybody else working and they're doing all these smaller jobs. Well, we're really funneling them down to where we're only getting people. I mean, the website screams we're expensive, so
Yeah.
we're kicking those people out right away. And then the referrals and the architects, I set myself up early. The idea is I didn't have a big team, so get to know all these people, these high-end designers, high-end architects. They already have the high-end clients.
Yep.
And then, they don't do as many water features as they do driveways and patios and trees, but when they do, we get the call. And we work with some of the largest firms in our area. We travel a little bit, but the big players in our area come to us.
Yep. Smart. Okay. And so somebody that starting a business, I don't want to say landscaping, but any service-based business, what do you think are some of the first things they should be focused on?
Well, from building your team, I'd say one of the huge things I learned over the last year and a half was core values and figure out your market and what you want to do, and don't deviate from that. You may have to take some stuff that isn't your ideal jobs, but as you're going, because you do need cash flow. I've had to do it.
Yeah.
But then you get to the point where you can't do those anymore because you're so busy doing the other work.
Yep.
And learning and tracking your numbers from day one. Even if you don't know how to do it, hire an accountant or a business coach that can help you do it and figure it all out.
Yep.
I never knew about coaching until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's best thing I ever did.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big deal, right? If you're bidding work and you're bidding on at a deficit, right? You're bidding losing work.
Yeah.
You're essentially, you working is costing you money.
Yeah, there's guys that I know that'll do work and like they're not making any money, but the money's flowing through, and it's like, well, how come you can't afford this? How come you can't pay that? You're scraping to make payroll. I've never scraped to make payroll.
Yeah.
Granted, I may not get paid that week, although I really don't take much of a paycheck. we hear the stories. People have made $600 their first couple of years or the first year.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's very true.
The last few years are the first years I've actually taken real money from the company and paid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a dichotomy, right? Because if you're taking money, the more money you take, the less money you can put back into business.
Exactly.
You taking money is a zero-sum game, meaning if you're taking $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week or $500 a week, that money's out of the business. Now, if you're putting, if you're taking 500, but you're reinvesting 1,500 that you could be paying yourself, and that 1,500 a week, if you can, have a 20% return on that, which most people do in their business, well, guess what? That compounds. And as that compounds, you grow, and there's less friction to grow. That's the difference.
Yeah, learning that reinvesting back into the company was the highest rate of return of any investment I could have made. I forgot the percentage rate, but I think it was for every dollar I was spending on assets in the company, I was earning 19 point something dollars in return.
That's insane.
Yeah. And sometimes my guys don't believe that I don't take a check, and I don't, but it just keeps going back in. At the end of the year, I could have bought a fancy truck, a really nice truck. And I was like, well, it doesn't make me money. I'll just keep driving my used F-250. So.
You're talking to someone who has an Accord and owns a lending company.
Yeah.
So it's not lost on me, my friend.
No.
I think that I think the longer you can live well below your means and put it back into the business,
Yep.
the quicker you have a business that is actually going to make a difference and make an impact.
Yeah, and you're building equity.
Yes.
Especially, I have a lot of metal assets.
Yeah.
The next thing is, in 2 years, have the potential. Now, where I rent, it's dirt cheap, so it's kind of like a, do the math type of thing. But if I can buy 5 acres or a farmette, we might do that. And throw greenhouses on it and make a, whatever warehouse, rent out part of the space to somebody else. But right now, rent is really cheap where I'm at.
Yeah.
Land around me is really expensive. So it just didn't make sense to go for that. It made more sense to invest in more equipment and more people.
Yeah. I would absolutely wait. And I think in about 18 months, you're going to have a hell of a buying opportunity.
Yep. Yeah.
Just
I was hearing that with the equipment, but I needed the equipment right away.
Yeah. I don't know how much the equipment goes down, though, right? Like you're talking new equipment. I don't think they adjust their prices too much based on the market.
Well, that or it was people that way overextended themselves and have to return the equipment.
Yes.
And was getting repoed or had to go to auction.
Yep.
But that's fine. It is nice having nice new equipment.
Yeah.
And then just take care of it.
There you go. That's it. What is maintenance like on those pieces?
Well, the big one I haven't gotten, it hasn't even gotten delivered yet, even though I make payments on it now. But it's not that bad. Things break here and there, but as long as you teach people to take care of it and you do your preventative maintenance, it's not a big deal. I take my machines to the dealer and I'm like, here, change all the fluids, change all the filters. They're like, well, you're not due for it. I'm like, just do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost. If you spend $1,000 a year on the machine for oil changes and filters, for me, that's nothing.
Yep.
It's insurance, and it was done. We grease them every day, blow out, filters as needed every day. We're fine.
There you go.
It's usually the attachment that breaks. Well, and that happens. We're pushing our stuff to the limits a lot.
I've seen some of the stuff you move. Some of those machines must be screaming.
They are. Yeah. I could probably make some funny OSHA reels, and
you probably don't want to post those.
But it's amazing how
send those privately.
It'll be like the Mr. George videos you see on Instagram.
That's funny.
How much you pay for the new guy?
That's great. Well, Larry, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate this.
You're welcome.
This is going to be all over. So if people want to reach out to you to get something designed and built, where should they go?
The easiest is the website, reflectionswatergardens.com. It's honestly the easiest way to do it.
Okay. What about Facebook, Instagram?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. There's the business, and then there's Larry Carnes. It's Reflections Water Gardens. Just search that. You can search me, Larry Carnes. I post more on my personal stuff than I do on the business.
Yep.
Business is mainly the social media people and the website and some of my my operations guy posts.
Awesome. Anything you want to leave everybody with?
It would be great.
I love it. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on and doing this.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.